bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet
North Alabama is full of adventure. If you love food, we've got it. If you love festivals, we've got them. If you love the outdoors, we've got plenty of places to explore. Whatever you love, we're sure to have something for you. For all things North Alabama, check out northalabama.org.
It's bow time. Sometimes the holiday season is your busy season. You gotta get a tree, decorate the tree, stop your 8-year-old from climbing the tree, buy presents, wrap presents, return presents, hog-tie some garland, hunt down those decorative pine cones, and take in the warm glow of red and green traffic lights. Mostly red. Why not drop a big bow box on it? Because with a sleigh full of boneless or bone-in chicken, biscuits, fixins, and tea, if it's Christmas time, it's bow time.
With a house surrounded by pine trees planted in 1961, April and I knew it was time to do something about it. So we called James Paul. With over 25 years in the business, James Paul Tree Service offers their knowledge and experience, along with honesty and dependability, which gives you peace of mind when it comes to tree removal, tree cleanup, and clearing. Give James Paul a call at 256-777-0711.
Before they fall, give James Paul a call.
Boutique Air in Muscle Shoals, Alabama offers direct flights to Atlanta and Pensacola. Boutique Air service runs twice daily, 7 days a week with fares starting at $59. Follow Boutique Air Muscle Shoals on Facebook at Boutique Air MSL and book your flight through boutiqueair.com. Boutique Air,
where you can fly private for the cost of commercial.
Hey everybody, this is Daryl Worley, and you're listening to The Mark White Show. Hey, step up and make a difference like he does.
Hey y'all, this is Jeff Foxworthy, and you can make a huge difference in somebody's life. You just may not have figured out how yet, and that's why you're listening to The Mark White Show.
Hi, this is Maggie Peterson. I played Charlene Darling on The Andy Griffith Show, and you are listening to The Mark White Show.
Hi folks, this is Ricky Skaggs, and you're listening to The Mark White Show.
Hello, I'm Gene Stallings, and this is The Mark White Show. Get off the sideline and get involved and make a difference in your community.
You are listening to The Mark White Show. My daddy is your host, Mark White.
welcome to another edition of The Mark White Show. I'm glad that you can be with us today as we recognize a very special organization called Addie's Army. I reached out to Addie's Army and made contact with Brian Schubert, Addie's father, and I wanted to share about this special organization and how you can help. And right now I do have on the line with me Brian Schubert. Welcome to the Mark White Show, Brian.
Well, thank you, Mark, for having me.
Glad to have you, and I'm just now becoming aware of Addie's Army thanks to Rick Carley in Birmingham. So, Brian, to get started, how did Addie's Army come to be?
Well, so it goes back 10 years ago, or just I guess a little bit over 10 years ago, when my wife and I moved to Birmingham to start a business. We moved here, and my business got delayed in its opening. I kind of had a few months, it was staying in, actually, we weren't even in a rental house yet. We were staying in an apartment until we could get the rental house, because that was at the time when the tornadoes had just come through and there weren't a lot of places available. So we were actually at a temporary like apartment for a month and had moved up here from the Panhandle. And Addie was at that time just a little bit over 2 years, about not quite 2.5, but almost. And while we were living in the Panhandle area, Pensacola, Gulf Breeze area, I was shutting down one of my other businesses and ready to start this new adventure with the new business up here in Birmingham. And, basically at about 18 months while we were still down in Florida, my wife kept saying, hey, this is a mother's instinct here. There's something wrong with Addie. And we had gone to see a lot of, her pediatrician, her doctors and whatever. And they're like, no, this is just a phase. And, I had kind of just, brushed it off and told her, hey, we got to listen to the doctors. And we had, family members are like, no, this is just a phase. And so when I was up here, or when I had that time, basically, when my business was being delayed in opening, we took her to a doctor here in Birmingham, and we were only 2 weeks into living here, and we got the formal diagnosis of autism. And of course, it wrecked me, and it was just a lot of things that go through your mind. And we didn't even know what special need. We knew what special needs were, but not autism. And just, it was beginning of a journey. And so, you go into this mode of where you're going to do everything you can to help your child. And we talked to very quickly, even though we'd only been now in Birmingham for about a month, we were going to try to do whatever we could to help her. And, we were getting so many different opinions, and some were well-intended. Some of them were, looking back on them, they were well-intended, but they wouldn't have been what we decided at that time. But we kept hearing, hey, there's one school that you really got to get her into. And the problem of it was that it was not part of our budget. It was a very expensive school, but it was really the only option. And so we got her into the school. My business opened in September of 2011, and just like any other business, it takes time for it to grow, and we were having a lot of issues with that. And I was having to be there as an owner, basically from 5 in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. And then I'd get home, and Addie was having meltdowns, pulling her hair out, self-injurious behavior, was not, and she still is nonverbal, but wasn't speaking at all. Like, we had just kind of lost her. And it was like a thief coming in the middle of the night and just robbing her of the stuff that she was doing, just a little bit, like playing peekaboo and like giving eye contact, but we lost all that. And so as time went on, 2011, 2012, we traveled all over the United States to find specific doctors to try to see what we could do in order to get her help and give her the best life possible. And obviously that takes a lot of money. And Addie was so severe in the sense of her emotions and just regulating stuff. Like, she could not fly. And so my wife had to drive everywhere. And so, you got hotel costs, you've got just, traveling expenses. And then I'm at home taking care of her two brothers, and then trying to make sure this business is flowing and going. And it just took a lot out of us from a financial standpoint, from a mental standpoint, and a spiritual standpoint. And we were, struggling, and we kept trying to just make things work, and she wasn't making any progress at this school. And so you fast forward, and so I guess I need to back up. So from a financial standpoint, as a dad, I'm the provider, and I need to make sure that, everything can happen for her and her brothers. And it was just really, really tough for us. And we fast forward to April of 2013. Addie was just, she turned 4 back in February of 13. So she was just a little bit over 4. And the school that she was in, the same school that we started in the fall of 2011, she was basically at a point where they're like, hey, she can't stay in the same classroom. And we need to put her into a type of class is basically one-on-one therapy. And, I knew that my wife was like, she was like, if we have to live in a cardboard box, we're going to do it. And I was like, well, we're almost there anyways, but we were making some strides. Our head was not above the water, but we were just treading water from a financial standpoint. But I knew that if we were putting her into this program, even though it was the same school, it was going to be double the cost. And I didn't think that we could make it. So I'm originally from the Atlanta area along with my wife, and one of my very dear friends that I've known since 5th, 6th grade, she knew about everything that was going on. And I told her, I said, look, this, and I wasn't looking for anything. I just said, I don't know how we're going to do it. And, if you knew her, she's a every day on a scale of 10, she's a 10 out of 10 and always happy and go lucky. And she's like, well, we'll put together a fundraiser for you. And so they put together a fundraiser. Addie started that new program in August of 2013. And they were like, well, we'll do it for October. And, beggars can't be choosers. But I also was like, from a business perspective of just thinking business, like, well, Kristen, how much do you think you can raise, or what do you think you're going to raise? And she says, oh, I think we can, do $5,000 to $7,000. And I was like, well, that'll get us essentially, 2 months of the new program that she was going to be in. And, but we were willing to get whatever we could. Well, that day, October, and I never forget the date. It was October 6th of 2013. There were probably about 80 to 100 people, some dear friends that I hadn't seen in forever. My wife hadn't seen in years since high school. And then there was obviously other people that were involved in it. But by the end of the day, within about 4 or 5 hours, they had raised $30,000. And while it didn't cover the entire school year for her in this new program, it covered a big chunk of it, and to where I had relief, my wife had relief, and it felt like just an elephant off your chest, to where I could breathe. And when we were driving back to Birmingham on I-20, it was Addie and her 2 brothers in the car, and my wife. And I just remember looking in the rearview mirror, and I remember thinking, yes, this is going to help Addie tremendously. But more importantly, it's probably going to save our marriage, and it's going to give opportunities to her brothers, because especially the middle one, he was only five at the time. He never understood, well, why can't I play baseball? Why can't I do this? And we're like, well, we just can't afford it, buddy. We've got to put our resources and everything towards Addie. And so I just remember hearing God's voice to say, you've got to bless other families the way you've been blessed and make your pain your purpose. And so I just knew we were going to call it Addie's Army, but I didn't know what we were going to do. I had no idea, like, how are we going to help these families? What's it going to look like? And so it was probably about 2 months later, and I think December of 13, it may have been January of 14. We were at church one day, and our pastor said, your test will be your testimony, and whatever's been painful, make it your purpose. And so when I was sitting in church, I just started writing down, like, okay, what's all the stuff that's been painful in this journey? And when you look at Addie's Army and everything that we do, we call them branches. So we have, different branches of Addie's Army, but each branch represents something that we either struggle with, hope for, researched. When Addie, when we first started with our journey with autism, and then as she's progressed, Addie's Army's kind of changed. But so I guess back full circle though. So we started Addie's Army May 5th of 2015, and launched it. And we started off with basically 4 branches, and a couple of them we don't have anymore. We switched them to new ones that, as Addie gets older, or things that we see in our journey that parents need or the siblings need or whatever it is, we've added those branches. And so that's essentially how Addie's Army started. It just really came from pain that we had or stuff that we saw in this whole journey of special needs and autism.
Right now we're talking to Brian Schubert with Addie's Army. He's sharing about how Addie's Army began, how it started. You may be a special needs family that has dealt with this for years. You may have a lot of experience when it comes to a special needs person, or you may just be getting started. I want Brian's message to be an encouragement to you to think about the possibilities of what you can do to make a difference with your child, with your young person, with the experience that you've gained, making your pain your purpose. That's exactly what Brian was sharing with us. And Brian, if you'll stick with me, we'll go into another segment, and then we'll talk about Addie's Army. We'll talk about some of the things that have been accomplished through this effort, and we'll talk about how people can connect, okay?
That sounds great.
All right, folks, I hope you'll stick with us as I continue this conversation with Brian Schubert with Addie's Army. You are listening to The Mark White Show, and I'm your host, Mark White.
A little wink, a pat on the back, a big old hug, a little laugh. We can make a difference. All we have to do is try. Every day's a chance to change somebody else's life. Let's all do something good today.
It's bow time. Sometimes the holiday season is your busy season. You gotta get a tree, decorate the tree, stop your 8-year-old from climbing the tree, buy presents, wrap presents, return presents, hog tie some garland, hunt down those decorative pine cones, and take in the warm glow of red and green traffic lights. Mostly red. Why not drop a big bow box on it? Because with a sleigh full of boneless or bone-in chicken, biscuits, fixins, and tea, if it's Christmas time, it's bow time.
North Alabama is full of adventure. If you love food, we've got it. If you love festivals, we've got them. If you love the outdoors, we've got plenty of places to explore. Whatever you love, we're sure to have something for you. For all things North Alabama, check out northalabama.org.
Experience the difference at Athens Bible School. The vision and purpose is to provide each student a quality education in a Christ-centered environment to develop the whole person spiritually, mentally, physically, and socially in safe and supportive surroundings. The solid biblical foundation permeates learning and culture in the classrooms and every extracurricular activity.
With over 25 years in the business, James Paul Tree Service offers their knowledge and experience, along with honesty and dependability, which gives you peace of mind when it comes to tree removal, tree cleanup, and clearing. Give James Paul a call at 256-777-0711.
Before they fall, give James Paul a call.
Mr. Cecil Batchelor is the one that started this business as Dependable Service Center. And even though now it's Green's Dependable Hardware and we're a True Value store, our tagline is still Your Dependable Service Center. We've tried to keep that alive for all these years. Mr. Batchelor really started a good business. We're really excited to be carrying on a long-standing tradition. It's the oldest retail store in the city of Russellville. We're Green's Dependable Hardware, 15220A Highway 43 in Russellville, Alabama. We're right behind McDonald's or right across the street from the hospital. Number is 256-331-0123.
Your Dependable Service Center.
Hi, I'm Crystal Gale, and you're listening to The Mark White Show. And one smile can make a difference. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Someone loves you, I do.
He drives into the city, works extra hard all day. He finishes up early so he can get away. 'Cause there's a blue-eyed kid on second base, wants Dad to watch him play.
Welcome back to the Mark White Show. I am glad that you can be with us today as we recognize a very special organization called Addie's Army. And I have on the line with me Addie's father, Brian Schubert. We've been sharing about Addie's Army. We've been sharing the story about Addie and how this special organization came to be. Welcome back to the Mark White Show, Brian.
Good to be back, Mark.
You know, at the last of the first segment, I talked about those who might be experiencing a special needs young person for the very first time in their life. They may be experiencing special needs for the first time. And as you mentioned in the first segment, it's something that you and your wife were really not experienced in. But of course, with Addie, you gained a lot of experience. And right now there may be those who have a newborn, who have a very young child. They may be in a situation where they just found out that their child has special needs, and they may also feel like you and your wife did early on when it came to Addie. And I want them to hear stories like yours, because I want them to, first off, get some peace and comfort and know that they're not alone, and that they can find strength through other people who have been through this as well. So, Brian, I would like for you to share about that experience and maybe a message of encouragement to those who are going through this as well.
Absolutely. Well, it makes me think of a few things. The first thing is, if you're wondering, like, why is my child not meeting these milestones at this age, or whatever, definitely go get, him or her tested. But, Addie doesn't like me to say this, because we know now, and I can go into that in a minute, she understands fully well, even though she's still nonverbal. The first thing I would say, no matter what, whether it's autism or, any other type of special needs, you need to presume competence. Because these kids, even though they may not look like they understand what's going on, or they may not be able to verbalize it, in Addie's case, and Addie, to the traditional, or like if we're in a restaurant and nobody knows what autism is, they may look at her because she's kind of looking everywhere, and she doesn't react if you say her name or whatever. But the first thing is just presume competence. And for us, and me in particular, not so much my wife, but when she got diagnosed, it felt like the death of a child to me at first. And you feel like I'm losing all these dreams that I have with my daughter, walking her down the aisle, or having her teach her how to drive a car, those type of things. But what I would say is, one, don't look at it that way. Would I want her to be completely healed? Yes, we pray for that all the time. You don't need to look at it as though it's the death of a child. Addie's now been more of a blessing in building our faith. Now, we still pray for her to be healed. We do, and we hope that. But we've also seen so many miracles that have happened, because she'll be 13, in February. And there was a time where, she wasn't potty trained, not at the age that she should have been. And and then even though she's nonverbal, she can now handwrite and type. Now, some days are better than others. If autism rears its head, she may not be able to do it for a couple months, and we may lose her. But we know now, she's told us through handwriting and typing that she's like, my autism is basically that I can't get my body to do what my brain's telling it to do. But we know she's there. So I tell parents, I'm like, one, presume confidence. Don't look at it as it's the end of the world, because it will get better. It always gets better. I can't reemphasize that enough. Now, it may not seem like it in the moment, but the other thing is probably the biggest suggestion I give families that are just starting this journey and they just got a diagnosis for whatever it is: do not isolate yourself. Isolating yourself is one of the worst things. And I did that. If I'm being honest, it was, there were days of depressed, sadness, shame, guilt, questioning things. But isolation it's a killer. And part of it, with Addie's Army, it helps the therapeutic part for us to be like, okay, we're not in this alone. And as bad and as tough as Addie can be sometimes, our heart hurts because we see other kids and other adults that are what the typical role would say is lower functioning or severe. Now, I don't like using lower functioning, but there are kids that obviously have higher needs. And Addie's progressed, and that's why I just tell parents, I'm like, presume competence, because they're in there whether they are showing it or not. Don't look at it as end of the world, because it will get better, and just don't isolate yourself.
When I think about the families that have been helped through Addie's Army, and I know that there are many, one person actually through Instagram told me that they have benefited from a swim program in North Alabama in the Tennessee Valley. And so I know that this organization has touched many lives since it was founded.
Right. Well, So that's at the Addie's Fence. So that's one of the branches, and that's actually one of the branches that we added on after we started. Probably it was back in 2016, so about a year after. And really, like I said earlier, each branch represents something we've struggled with, hoped for, or researched. And with Addie's Fence in particular, how that came about was probably about, it was 5 years ago. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do my time here. Let's see. It was, 5. Oh, this is 2021. So 5 years ago, or I'm sorry, 6 years ago, I guess now. Addie was what they call an eloper, and meaning that if we were, you and I were having dinner somewhere and we were sitting next to her and didn't pay any attention, she would just run out in the middle of the street. And I mean, she's told us now, I mean, not at the time because she was not handwriting or, typing, but she knew the dangers, but her body just got so, she couldn't control it. Like I said, I mean, her autism is where she can't get her body or her body to do what her brain's telling her to do. But when she escaped our house, and it was actually 3 days before Christmas. So it was December 22nd or 23rd, like I said, 6 years ago. She escaped our house, and even though we have a fence, we had the gate open, and she was able to get out, and we didn't know. And it was about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and it was raining, and we didn't know which way to go, whether to go left or right. And we knew that if we yelled her name, she's not going to respond or anything like that. And fortunately, a neighbor we did not know at the time, Addie had about a 15, 20-minute head start, was dancing in the middle of the street with her iPad and her pajamas on. And this lady just knew something was off. And I had gone the other way. My wife had actually gone in the direction where she ended up being. And I heard my wife scream like I've never heard her scream before, and got Addie, and the lady that kind of just stayed with her until she could figure it out, because she knew something was wrong, because she didn't know her name at the time, but it was like, hey, little girl, and Addie wasn't responding, and we call her the Christmas angel, but she just said she was going from house to house and playing in their yards and then being out in the middle of the street. And she almost got hit a couple times. Well, the other problem with that was, and that's why we built fences, which is Addie's barracks. But with what you were saying about Addie's Fens, we also knew that had she gotten to a body of water, that the outcome was not, we knew what the outcome would be. And that's the issue with a lot of kids with autism, is that they are attracted to the water from the reflections and just how it feels on their joints. So a lot of kids are attracted to it, like Addie was. And we had tried here in Birmingham with a couple instructors, and they basically gave up within 2 minutes, because Addie was hitting them, biting them, punching them, pulling her hair out. And we had found out about a lady down in Destin area from a couple friends, and they had taken their kids down to see her, and they're like, hey, Coach Mary, she's like a horse whisperer and can really reach these kids. And so, of course, we were being somewhat cynical, because we'd already tried a couple swim instructors. And so we took Addie down April of 2016 to Destin during our spring break. And she taught Addie to swim in 3 days. And when I say swim, like it wasn't doggy paddles, it was proficient swimming, going under. Like, she was like a little fish. And so, like I said, Addie's Army had been started for almost a year. And I said, this lady can reach these kids. And these are what, like I said, typical world be like very severe, like they're not in there and all that. And we brought her up. We brought her up the first time in fall of 16, and we just tested it. And it was 1 week, had 8 kids. Coach Mary would do 45 to 50-minute one-on-one lessons. And that first year, most of these kids were nonverbal or had had a lot of issues, and she was basically able to teach all of them to swim proficiently. And we're like, wow, this program's like really, this is impactful. And so since 2016, it's grown and it's changed, in that I think in 17 we did 2 weeks in Birmingham, and then in 18 we did 2 weeks in Birmingham, 1 week up in the Huntsville, Decatur area. And then in 19, we did the same thing, 2 weeks in Birmingham, 1 week in Huntsville and Decatur. And then 2020, because of COVID, we weren't able to do it, but that was going to be our first time going outside of Alabama. And so this past year, we did our normal 2 weeks in Birmingham, 1 week in Decatur and Huntsville, and then 1 week right on the border of Tennessee and Alabama in Jackson, Tennessee. But, and we probably had, I think, 75 to 80 kids now over the last 5 years go through the program. And while not every single one, I mean, Coach Mary's success rate's pretty high up there. And we knew that this is it's a skill that all kids want. When we'd go to public pools before Addie could swim, we were always having to watch her and have our eyes on her nonstop. And then even if she got out of the water, she would bolt off. But we're like, parents can't even relax if they want to take their child to the pool. And we had her two brothers, one that was about 2 years older than her, so we had to watch him. And so we could never relax. But not only is it a life skill, it's also it's a life-saving skill or life-saving opportunity, because while we hoped that never would happen, we've had two parents report back to us and say, look, Coach Mary's or Addie's fins saved my child's life. In one case in particular, it was a young lady, and the mom sent us the message, but I believe it was in May of 19. And this child had done the program in 18, and they went to the lake, and mom had a baby, or the 6-month-old on her hand or in her arms, and her child with autism jumped off the dock. And the mom couldn't swim. She also, like I said, had the 6-month-old, and she swam right back to the dock. And she said, if it weren't for Addie's fins, my daughter probably wouldn't have made it, because there was nobody down there. It was, I think, 10 to 15 foot water right off this dock. So we hope that that's never the case, but we're thrilled that, like, if something like that were to happen, that they can get water safety and back somewhere safe, because this child in particular was nonverbal as well. So Addie's fins has been, like I said, it started about a year after, and I mean, it's been very successful, and we've done it every year, and it's grown a little bit more and more.
Well, and since you've talked about Addie's fins and then touched on Addie's barracks just a little bit, let's also go ahead and talk about Addie's paws, as well as Addie's racers, Addie's symphony, Addie's lemonade brigade as well.
Okay, well, Addie's paws, we that was one of the ones that we started with, but we did take away just because we wanted to focus in on some other things. But Addie's, the newest, our newest branch is Addie's Respite, and we started that back in August of 2020. And we have a very awesome family that makes sure it happens from a financial standpoint. But basically what Respite is when my wife and I were going through this, we never had a break. We never had time to work on our marriage. We never had time just to spend together. Some of it was because, we wanted to make sure it was the right babysitter, but it was also from a financial standpoint. So since we've started Respite, what it is the first Friday or Saturday, we Addie's Army will, we make sure that whatever the activity is, be it if they go to dinner or whatnot, we cover all their expenses for the dinner, and then we also cover the babysitter. Now the parents decide, because we want them to, one, from a liability standpoint, but also just from a trust standpoint. But we mix it up sometimes. With Respite, we may pick a restaurant, and the couples go and they're able to get away and take a break. And it's grown to where it's built a community of special needs parents that didn't know each other, to where they can kind of share their stories and, their hurts, their pains, and also their accomplishments. But, some months are different too. Like in this past June, we did Top Golf, but since it was Father's Day, it was only for fathers. And in May, I don't recall what it was. I think it was some crafting and lunch or whatever for the moms in May. And then sometimes we'll do to where we want all the couples, or single moms or single dads. We've done a cooking class where we rent out everything over there at Mountain Brook at the Bohemian, I think is the name of it. But we rent it out to where, it's just for the parents, single moms, single dads, and it just helps them grow the community. And then Addie Symphony is, it's just we do once a quarter, and it's 4 days within a given month, and it's basically musical therapy that we do out of the music room in Leeds, and that's been very successful as well. And then Addie's Racers, when Christy and I were forming it, we just said, hey, we want to create one branch to where it's a fun thing, not so much as a service aspect, because all these respite and all that, that's more of service needs and what these families are needing or wanting. But Racers, really the whole idea behind that was, and not just for autism, but it was just to build the entire special needs community. And of course we thought, well, since we're having it at Barber, we're going to impact kids from Birmingham. But since it's grown, we've had kids come from out of state. It's all inclusive. I mean, if it doesn't, you don't have to have autism. It can be cerebral palsy or Down syndrome or whatever the special needs are, whatever the disability is, they're welcome, but it's a one-day event. And we also make sure that we emphasize that this is as much for the special needs child as it is for his siblings, because we saw in our journey how much her two brothers got neglected with time. And so, it's not so much that we were intentionally doing it. It's just that the needs of Addie in our case it was all hands on deck for a lot of the time. And so her two brothers, unintentionally, and we weren't trying, they just got neglected with time. And so we try to tell them, well, Racers isn't just about the special needs child. It's about the siblings too.
And Brian, the biggest reason for going ahead and outlining these efforts is so that someone listening right now who may need a resource, needs the tools available, they'll hear those things and then say, you know what, I need to go to addysarmy.org and check it out for more information, because I do want to help someone out there right now who feels like there's not something for them, that maybe they're alone right now. And that's a tough place to be. And obviously with Addie's Army, you and your wife and your team of people have worked very hard to fill that gap and to be there for these families, to be supportive of them, to give them this leisure time, to also give them some joy. And I think joy is important as we are headed toward Christmas and thinking about the joy of the season. And I want you to be able to tell people how to connect with Addie's Army, what you want a family to do if they're listening right now and they're saying, I need to take advantage of this. I need to find out more and be a part of this effort.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if they just go to addysarmy.org, it's ADYS. I talked obviously about just about every branch that we do, but even stuff that we don't, we get a lot of emails of like, hey, what about this? Do you know of this resource? And we may not be able to do what they're asking or have the need be able to do what they need, but we may have the resources to say, hey, well, you can check out this organization, or we've heard from, about X, Y, and Z group, to where we can at least direct them and guide them. Obviously these other programs that we're capable of, it's just one of those things of like, okay, well, when we're doing it, this is when we run fins, this is when we do Racers, and this is when we do, Symphony and all the above. And, because we just don't want these families to be isolated and do this journey alone, because these resources, I mean, we know based off the emails we get, and just the submissions of people trying to get help. I mean, we do stay within Alabama, other than that little part of fins in Tennessee. But we get the requests. I mean, we've gotten requests from just about every state over the last 6 years, needing these services, be it swim lessons or fences or whatever it is. And the need is there. I mean, the need is there. The demand is there. And I mean, just based off of kind of just hearing from different people throughout the country and the emails that we get, they don't have those resources either. And we just want families to know, look, we do it one family at a time. We got blessed, and we always said, well, we may not be able to impact the entire world, but we can impact one family at a time. And that's really our goal in it.
And we want people to follow on social media at Addie's Army org on Instagram, at Addie's Army on Facebook. And so that there's no confusion, Addie is spelled A-D-Y, so it's Addie's Army, and you can go and find that page as well as addiesarmy.org and follow this effort. And Brian, I'm appreciative of the fact that you could join me today and share about Addie's Army. I think it's a good time as people start to think about the new year, think about 2022, maybe some resolutions. Maybe you haven't had the time that you wish that you could have had with your child over the past year. Maybe this will open up some doors and some opportunities to be able to spend more time with them and help them in some areas that maybe you didn't think it would be possible.
Absolutely. And, just like I said earlier, we just pray that these families just don't do it alone. And like I said, even if we don't have what they need or what they are hoping for, we can hopefully guide them into where, what the places they need to take a look at. But we have some big endeavors coming up in what we're trying to accomplish. We don't have one thing on our website right now, but one of the things that we are working on that will really change Addie's Army is, like I said, we kind of look at Addie's life and see everything like what she needed at 5 or 6, and then now that she's becoming a teenager, the seasons of life change for her. Well, we also know that when she's 21, she will technically age out, and there aren't a lot of options for parents for long-term residential. And right now, Addie will live with us for as long as we can take care of her, as long as we're here on this earth. But we are working on having long-term residential to where these kids can live, thrive, have purpose. Addie has written to us. She's like, I don't want to be a mission. I want to be a mission myself, and change the world. So she's like, don't look at me as a mission. So this place that we want to build for the long-term residential, I mean, they're going to have jobs there, but the biggest thing is they're going to have purpose. I mean, they're going to have their own little shop, and that's a lot of stuff. We've done a lot in 6 years, and we've kind of figured it all out. Now this endeavor is going to be our biggest one, and it's really kind of the legacy that my wife and I want to leave behind, to be able to have to where when a child hits 21 in the state of Alabama and they don't have a place to go, they're going to be able to have a place that we're trying to build for long term. And I mean, beyond when we're still here on earth is how we, want to make sure it's running the whole time.
Addie's Army is a nonprofit organization seeking to serve God by serving special needs families, giving peace of mind one family at a time, and peace is spelled P-I-E-C-E, with a tip of the hat to autism and the autism community.
That's right. Yep, it's a play on words for the puzzle piece.
Brian Schubert, it's been a real pleasure to have you here on the Mark White Show today, and you're always welcome. I appreciate the work that's going on there at Addie's Army, and if I can help, let me know. I'm glad to be able to spread the word about Addie's Army today, so thank you again for joining me.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, and I hope you have a great Christmas and prosperous 2022.
Merry Christmas, Brian, to you and your family, and Addie, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mark.
Before we close out today's show, I want to express my deepest condolences to the family, friends, teammates, classmates, and community of Robbie Roper. Robbie was a senior quarterback at Roswell High School in Roswell, Georgia, and passed away earlier today. Today's show is dedicated in memory of Robbie Roper. Please keep this family in your prayers. Here on the Mark White Show, we're recognizing difference makers like Robbie Roper and the Schubert family with Addie's Army. If you're encouraged and inspired by the Mark White Show, I hope that you'll share the show with your family, your friends, and your neighbors, and let them know about the Mark White Show and what we're doing to make a difference in our communities around the country and the world. I want you to follow the Mark White Show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and also subscribe to the Mark White Show podcast via Apple iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Audioboom, SoundCloud, Blueberry, and YouTube. You have been listening to another edition of The Mark White Show. and this is Mark White, encouraging you to find your purpose by making a difference in someone's life today.
Who live and love in my hometown. These are my kind of people.
Located in Tuscumbia, Alabama, the Alabama Music Hall of Fame honors Alabama's music achievers. You can even go into the recording studio and try out your talents as a singer. That's the Alabama Music Hall of Fame, located at 617 Highway 72 West in Tuscumbia, Alabama. Open Tuesday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Give them a call at 256-381-4417. Check them out on the web at alamhof.org. Boutique Air in Muscle Shoals, Alabama offers direct flights to Atlanta and Pensacola. Boutique Air service runs twice daily, 7 days a week, with fares starting at $59. Follow Boutique Air Muscle Shoals on Facebook at Boutique Air MSL and book your flight through boutiqueair.com. Boutique Air,
where you can fly private for the cost of commercial.
Is it time for a haircut? Give my friend Philip Butler at Southwind Barbershop a call, located in Rogersville, Alabama. You can call him at 256-247-5658. Make an appointment or just walk in. That's Southwind Barbershop in Rogersville, Alabama.
Now that was a great Christmas morning.
Oh, it looks like you have one more gift under the tree, son.
An ultimate roofing system installed by a GAF Master Elite Contractor and a GAF Golden Pledge warranty?
Keep looking.
Whoa, a 25-year Thompson Roofing Workmanship warranty backed by GAF? Thanks, Dad.
Don't thank me.
Santa?
No, Santa is not really licensed and insured. You can thank Thompson Roofing and Construction. They've been serving North Alabama and South Tennessee communities for years.
Wow.
I just went to 256roofing.com and set up an appointment for a free inspection and quote. Contact Thompson Roofing and Construction today at 256roofing.com, 256-952-3309. Now, did you check your stocking?
Seamless gutters. Thanks, Thompson Roofing and Construction.
Oh, won't you hear me, people, when I say, well, let's all do something good today.